kind of jumping ahead right now, but I want to talk about the more healthier practices of sex. You understand? A lot of people of my generation are basically they have never been taught the power of sex. They've never been taught the ritual of sex. They've never been taught that there are unhealthy ways that you could go about, that you could participate in sex. And, a lot of people such as yourself have been shedding light on the practices of sex and whatnot. But can you share some information about healthy practices of sex to bring about a certain kind of energy, a certain kind of, especially if you're trying to procreate and you want to bring down a certain, certain frequency?
What we have here is a language. Music is a language, dancing is a language, clothing is a language, architecture is a language, and we have a language called sex. And that language is defined by your culture. Bees have a different ritual for sex. Cows do. Blackbirds, canaries, all animals and insects have rituals that they perform before they have sex. We don't have a ritual because our culture was taken from us. But we are following another culture's rituals for sex. That's our major problem. We're following another culture's rituals for sex. And it doesn't work that way. Sex is supposed to reflect your culture. It's supposed to reflect truth, justice, reciprocity, harmony, balance, which some people call ma'at. It's supposed to reflect that. That's what the ritual of sex is supposed to have. But we don't have that vocabulary anymore. What we do is follow what we were taught to do on the plantation and in colonialism by the Europeans. We were taught to rape each other, and that's what we do. If you don't say a prayer before you have sex, you're simply raping each other. And it gets to the point that you don't rape the person you're with, you rape yourself, which is called masturbation. Because we were taught that by our slave master, who was a rapist. So we're lost. We're culturally lost and don't know what sex is about. We just know what our slave master taught us. Get on that winch, you young buck, and just pump on it till you ejaculate. That's all we know.
Exactly.
And that's our slave master. He wants us to breed another clown to go to McDonald's. That's all they want us to do, breed another person with a PhD to work for IBM. Just breed to make these slaves, these new slaves, to fuel the European empire.
That was powerful right there. So yes, and even in our culture, in this culture that exists right now, you mentioned masturbation. The porn industry is bigger than Hollywood. So they have a lot of people captivated, you understand, by the whole porn aspect of sex. And many people begin to repeat that. They begin to repeat the behaviors that they see in the porn to bring about satisfaction to themselves. And you also have a large occurrence of, masturbation on both sides, women and men, you know what I'm saying? So can you tell the family and explain what is the dangers of participating? Because, I've heard some speakers and some teachers say that there's nothing wrong with masturbation. You know what I'm saying? So I want to know from you, what are the dangers of that behavior right there?
Well, we ask the right question, we can get the right answer. If we define the problem correctly, we can get the right answer. It's not masturbation, it's self-rape. Once you put it in that category, you know it's wrong.
Okay.
They're raping themselves. That's called self-rape. And that is a violation of God and of nature. We define it correctly. Don't go into the master and all those systems of initiation, which masturbation is a part of, along with homosexuality. You're going into a whole other rituals and ceremonies of the Europeans. Everything is sold by sex by them. Toothpaste, cars, hairstyles, deodorant. It doesn't matter. They always use sex to sell things. And they're not selling the person's sex. They're using sex to sell European culture. We're missing the whole point. They're using sex to bind you into European rituals and ceremonies, which means you will follow the European culture. Now you become an alien to your own culture, and aliens only follow aliens. And that's what they're selling with sex. This is a whole bait and switch kind of tactic. I was a psychotherapist in the military, man. I was a nurse in the military. I'm not talking like off the top of my head. I spent 30 years in this damn business. I'm telling you what they're doing. They're selling you European culture, and they're selling it through sex. We're missing the whole point.
Yes.
When your culture lets you follow these things. When you have a culture, you say, no, that's against my culture. My culture says truth, justice,
exactly,
balance, harmony. You see, your culture defines your sexual rituals and ceremonies, not some Europeans.
Exactly. Beautiful. I saw the 5-part series called The Century of Self, and I definitely recommend it for anyone that's listening to find that video series and watch it, because it explains the same thing that you said, that it was Sigmund Freud's cousin. I forgot his name, and he was the one who changed. He changed the Department of Propaganda to Public Relations, and he was the one who basically scientifically came about how to market products utilizing sex. He was one of the first ones to do it, and they've been following that formula ever since. The name of the series is called The Century of Self. You know what I'm saying? So I'm glad that you touched on that.
Yeah, it's a matter of understanding that the Europeans have invented nothing.
Yes.
He didn't come up with that idea. That's from Greek. You can go into Greek mythology, Chinese mythology, East Indian mythology, and see the homosexual and masturbation. They have their paintings on it. That's part of their culture. That's part of being an East Indian, an Arab, a Chinese. They're just 1 inch, maybe a half inch above a European. They have the same rituals and ceremonies. They sell their daughters into slavery, sex slavery, the Chinese, Japanese, East Indians. They're not our friends either, by the way. But what happened is, it wasn't Pavlov or Freud. This is pure Greek and Roman culture. This whole thing about how to market a product, and the product is always culture. The name of the game is culture. That's all it's ever been. That's what they did to us when they brought us here. They took away our culture. Therefore, they could use us. But if we had our culture, they could not use us. If we had our culture, we'd say, no, that's Chinese food. I'm not Chinese. I'm not eating that. The Chinese like Chinese food. They don't want no Italian food. The Chinese say, no, I don't want Italian food. I want Chinese food. I'm Chinese. If you're African, you say, no, I don't want that. I don't want my culture's food. Culture defines your food. Culture defines your sex. Culture defines your health. Culture. And without culture, you have no steering on your boat life. You don't know how to navigate. You don't know your place on the map of world culture.
Yes,